and I'm pretty excited to do that today and to partner with you. So welcome to the job interview portion of Creative Job Search. Before we move forward, we're going to have a little bit of participation. I'm going to have you to go ahead and put in the chat. I just want to know, in your definition, what is an interview? In your definition, what is an interview? If you could just tell me that real quick, drop it in the chat. What is your definition of an interview? What is the purpose of an interview? Don't be shy. What is an interview? I have never seen that one before. I've never seen that. Someone said it's a nightmare. But after today, it will no longer be a nightmare because we will know how to manage things around that. Meeting the hiring manager is what I'm seeing coming in here. A face-to-face business meeting, technical screening, a first date. It's not a date. We'll talk about why it's not a date later. Uh, get to know the applicant. Two, somebody actually said it. That's what I was looking for. I think I see the person who put it. A two-way conversation to see if both sides are a good fit. That's what I'm looking for. I want to make sure that even though a lot of more definitions, keep them coming if you want, are coming into the chat, and we see that it ranged from a nightmare to a date. We see all these different variations of what an interview is. But the most important thing I want us to walk away with and to make sure that it's not a nightmare is that we understand that an interview is a two-way conversation. It is so that the employer can determine if you are a great fit for the organization. And you also have some power here. You're not powerless. It's not a nightmare. You have the opportunity to see if you are if that employer is also a good fit for you. So it's not a one-way street. So thank you for whoever dropped it. I know who it was. I won't say your name. But anyway, thank you for putting that in the chat. That's exactly what I'm looking for. We're going to agree today that an interview is a two-way conversation. You also have some power in this, and you're also making a decision. After all, when you decide to put your time and your skill sets to an organization, then you're going to be there the majority of your life. Like, you come home, you go to sleep. So a lot of the time that you're awake, you're at work. So you definitely want to be at a place that you are happy and that you are flourishing. It's not just a one-way street. Also, I want to just give you another thing to help boost your confidence today is to understand that once the employer has looked over your resume, your cover letter, your credentials, then they have determined that you are qualified for the job. So before they call you, they've already determined that you're qualified. So a lot of that is just going to be going around the fact that, are you a good fit, and you determine if this is a place that you actually want to work. There are some situations or things that happen, and you may not choose to work there. So thank you for that. Go ahead and go to the reaction and give yourself a hand for all the participation in the chat. And somebody says an opportunity to get to know the company and have a company to get to know you. So that is exactly what I'm looking for. So a lot of you are saying that, so I appreciate that. That's what we're going to agree upon as a group today. All right. Thank you. So now, as we're talking about an interview, and we know that we have some power, we know that they've already deemed us qualified, and they just want to get to know us, and we're going to get to know them. We're going to talk about some additional interview preparation. One thing around the interview preparation is going to be research. So you're going to do research around the job, you're going to do research around the employer. So my question, and I wasn't going to do that, but let me see here if I can do that really quickly. I want to ask you another question, and it's going to be around research. And I want to know, I'm going to create a new one. I have a question for you. So where are you doing your research? So the question is so I'm just going to put the word research. Just don't have to type a lot. Research and a question mark. Where did you do your, I'm going to launch this in just a second here. It's going to be Wordle. We get a little participation. It should, something to manifest on your screen, and it will say, Lana would like you to open Slido. You just go ahead and hit yes on there. And then once you hit yes, it's going to open up for you. And then it's going to be, it says research and a question mark. Go ahead in there and tell me, where do you do your research when you're looking at the employer? And then hit send. Where are you doing your research? I see it coming in. It's coming in. Keep it coming. Keep coming. Where are you doing your research? I do see that the company website is coming in. I see that LinkedIn is coming in. I see YouTube. That's a new one. I haven't seen YouTube. Glassdoor is one that I see that's manifesting on there. The one that's coming out to be the biggest so far is the company website. I'm gonna give you a chance for a couple more people to put it in there. Now, I do like the fact that the company website is dominating this word cloud, because when you want to, one way that I try to teach people to avoid scams is to go directly to the company website, because there's a lot of third-party websites out there that will share out to us employers availabilities and opportunities. But if we really want to avoid a scam and not get caught up in something and give away our information to the wrong people, the employer's direct website is good. I'm gonna go ahead and close that word out, and thank you for your participation in that poll. And the company website did dominate that, so thank you so much for that. Now, let me see here. So yeah, so that's good. So we're researching online, we're doing the internet, but the company website was the primary place, and that's good. Google, Glassdoor did come up there. What are some things that we are looking for when we are doing our research around the company? Tell me, just drop it in the chat. We don't have to do another word. Or where are some place? What are we looking for when we're researching this employer? Some people say they're talking to the existing employees, so that's good too. We're looking for the culture. We're looking for the reviews. Somebody said mission. Absolutely. When you are going, it's part of preparation for sure. In selecting an employer that you want to interview with, you definitely want to know their mission and their goals. You have to go in knowing that. Does the employer that you are applying to, does their mission and their goals line up with how you're living? Like, what is it about their mission and their goal that that you can live with, so that's very important to know that their mission and their goals, because there's two companies out there. One is mostly red and one is mostly blue, but both of those companies, what they have similar is they both give back to the community. Anybody know who those two companies are? One's red, one's blue. They give back to the community. That's their mission, and that's part of their goals. Target is one. What's the blue one? There you go, Walmart. So we know, all I have to say is red or blue, and y'all already know. So both of those companies are known for giving back into the community. So if you were going to work at those organizations, if that was something that was important to you, being able to give back, then that might be why you would want to work there. There's one organization that they allow their employees, excuse me, to time off of work, paid time off of work, to participate in whatever organization, that nonprofit that they want to participate in. So some of those things may be important. So you want to know the goals, the missions. Also, you want to know where that employer stands in the industry. Who are their competitors? You want to know who their competitors are when you're researching it. You also want to know their financials. The last thing you want to do is invest your time, go into an organization, and then find out that, oh, they're going to go out of business soon. So those are some of the things that you will want to research when you are looking at going into an employer. And it's also going to help you set up for that interview. Now, when I say set up or research, if you have information around who's going to be interviewing you, I'm going to recommend that, yes, do a little research on that person, but don't tell them, because we don't want to come across as creepy. But if you know the interviewer's name, take a little peek at their LinkedIn, take a little peek at their Facebook or Instagram or whatever social media that you can find them on. And sometimes it's pretty easy. I found out the hard way a couple of weeks ago that I'm very Googleable. I lost my purse, and the person found me, and I was like, "How did you find me?" She Googled me. So I Googled myself after I got my purse back, and all my information came up. So be very careful too, what you're posting online. Because one of the things that I found out is I had wrote something on Facebook, and I didn't think anything of it, but that post was Googleable. They just put my name in, and what I wrote on that post was there. I'm really clean, so y'all could Google me if you want to, but make sure that your social medias, your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your Instagram, uh, whatever other gram you have, make sure those things are clean, because you could be Googleable and you don't really realize that. So you can Google that person, but don't tell them that you are Googled them, because that's a little low key creepy. And then also don't tell them that you did the research. The reason I want you to do the research so that you could be prepared for for the interview. But if you go in and you say, I looked at your website, I know everything, they may ask you a question or something that you missed. So do the research, but don't tell them so much you research. Um, Another thing you want to do as you are preparing for your interview is know the skills that you need. So where are we going to find these skills that we need for this particular job? Somebody's asking a question about how you're prepping for a technical interview problem challenge. Okay. So now the job posting. Everybody is saying the job posting. So to tie in my question with that question, which is the job posting is the place we're going to find those skill sets that the employer is looking for. So also on the job posting, if it requires a technical portion of the interview. And we're going to talk about different types of interviews. A technical interview is a type of interview. If I was going to go over 15, I'm not going to do 15 types of interviews a day. So I'm going to go ahead and answer this question now, and we'll talk about different interviews later because we were initially not going to talk about technical interviews. But the technical interview, normally they are going to have you to illustrate something, especially like if you're in IT, they want to know if you know how to do a particular software. They may break something and have you fix it. So a lot of times they're going to tell you that in the job posting. So if they illustrate to you or they tell you in the job posting, we're going to have this and we want you to be able to break down and rebuild XYZ, then you just practice that prior to going into the interview because they've already told you they were going to do it. If they don't tell you exactly what it is that you are going to do in a technical interview, another thing you could do is just make sure that everything that you say on your resume are factual, which it should be anyway, that everything on your resume is factual and 100% true because they're going to glean from your resume. A lot of your interview is going to come from your resume in many cases. They're taking information from your resume and they want you to be able to confirm it. So as long as you can perform every function on your resume, you should be good. Don't stress. Okay. So yes, we've determined that the skills that you're going to need is going to be uh, on the job description. So that should help you. And also on your resume as you have communicated to them. And I want to reiterate, make sure that you could do and answer all questions around your resume. The next thing is on here as we're preparing for the interview is we want to like check our attitude. And attitude kind of sounds like a nasty little word. So I'm going to say just check our mental space. What are we thinking? Like, are we hurt from a previous employer? Are we doubting that they really want us? That doubt should be removed in the fact that you have an interview. But just checking your line of thinking is what you want to do. And then on here says this look good. Basically, that's just around how to dress for an interview. Now, I don't know if we have those detailed times to go into that, but just making sure that you're looking professional when you're going into the interview. And then there's some parts too about looking is not so much of what you're wearing. What you're wearing is good. You probably have to master, but just being very careful of the nonverbal appearance. When I say nonverbal appearance, I mean, are you are they asking you a question? Say, do you see, for example, and I'm gonna try to do this, it's a little hard. For example, excuse me, if the employer say, do you see yourself here in 5 years? And you answer, yes, I see myself here in 5 years. What am I telling you? Yes, I see myself in here in 5 years. In the chat, tell me what am I saying? What am I telling you if I say yes, I see myself here in 5 years, but I'm doing this with my head? I'm shaking my head no. So even though your mouth is saying yes and your head is saying no, your nonverbal clues that you're giving will override what you're saying out your mouth. So you want to be very careful with your nonverbal clues, making sure you're sitting up straight, looking like you have confidence, don't slouch down. Just so many different things around that. That's part of what I mean when I say looking good. And so keep that in mind. I have never even considered the next 5 years. Okay, and don't cross your arms. Somebody said don't cross your arms. So let's talk about that because somebody brought it up in the chat, and I might have otherwise not discussed it, but I know about it. Crossing your arms can do two things. It does mean like when you cross your arms, you could be really intensely paying an attention, and you're like deep into thought, and you're trying to gather all that information. So we know that that is partially what happens when one crosses their arm. However, because crossing your arms also make you appear to be standoffish and closed off, I'm going to agree with the person who put in the chat to not cross your arms. So thanks for bringing that up. That's very important. So that goes along with the communication that we're sending with our nonverbal clues. So yeah, that's very good. I would have never brought that up because in person I used to do that. But yeah, that's good. I'm glad you brought that up. So yes, don't cross your arm and just come across as positive. Try to sit back and smile. I need everybody, even though I can't see you, I really wish we could turn those videos on, but that's okay. I'm gonna trust you. I need everybody to just smile. Smiling is going to be very important, whether it's whatever interview it is, and I'm gonna talk about that a little later. But make sure that you're smiling, that you're giving eye contact. So those are all part of making sure that you look good. Now, the next thing, I'm gonna make sure there's no questions in here that I missed. If you're wearing colors, wear the company colors. Somebody said in the chat, if you're wearing color, wear the company colors. Yes and no. Um, So, for example, we said that Target was red. I don't know that I would recommend that you wear red to an interview because red sends off different signals. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm up in the air about that one. Uh, Let me think about that one. I don't know if I agree 100% with that. All right. So next we're going to talk about the different types of interviews. As I aforementioned, we were going to do that. And so now there's several different types of interviews. And one type of interview is like screening. There's two types of screening interviews. One is, excuse me, one is the telephone screening, and then of course the in-person screening. Both of those interviews have the same purpose. They're trying to determine, are you going to be a good fit for the organization? But keep in mind that you are also determining if they are a good fit for you. So they may be calling it screening, but we're also screening them as well. So it's fine. Now, with the telephone screening, what are some things that we find to be important if we're having a telephone screening? What would be important? I kind of gave you one of the answers. Put it in the chat. What's one of the things that's going to be important during the telephone screening? Oh, somebody said don't interrupt. That didn't cross my mind, but yes, do not interrupt. That's good. Speaking clearly, talk slowly, smile. They can hear. They can hear it. It makes a difference. Your tone of voice, and making sure there's no noise in the background, your dispositional attitude, and having a great connection. So when they say having a great connection, I'm thinking about your ability to build a rapport. So even though it is important that when you're having a telephone interview, is what I'm gonna call it, or a telephone screening, that you are in an environment that is conducive for interviewing, meaning that it's quiet background, you have a reliable source. So make sure your batteries are charged, make sure you're smiling because they can hear you smiling. Those things are all important. You may want to also have, you want to listen. You may want to take notes. You may want to have your resume, a writing utensil, the job description in front of you during the telephone screening because you can refer back to it. They can't see you. I'm going to say this sounds crazy. Don't do the telephone screening in a muumuu or something. Make sure you have on actual clothes, even though they can't see you, because how you look may affect how you dress may affect how you feel and how you project. So keep all of those things in mind. Make sure you're not distracted. That's good. Thank you for that. Making sure that, like, if you have fur babies or real babies or family members, period, anybody in your house, make sure they know what you're doing. Hey, I'm in an interview right now. Please don't talk to me. Leave me alone. I don't know. Say it how you say it, because mine is a little direct. Say it nicer than that. Just say I'm going to be interviewing and I'm going to need a quiet space. You don't have to say the leave me alone part. I guess that's a little too direct. So then, those are all things. So Tammy has a sense of humor. So yes, you need to put some clothes on. So I hope you're joking. But anyway, so yeah, so the telephone screening, those are the things we want to make sure we have a reliable phone. If we are doing an interview, um, the reason why the employers do this because it saves them time, it saves them money, and it helps to determine, isolate some people before they get to the next round. So that's might be why they are doing it. But if you're doing a telephone screening, make sure that if you're moving around, you should have control over that because you set the appointment. So I'm not going to worry about them calling you all of a sudden and you need to stop and pull over because you've set this appointment. So those are my expectations. So you are aware that it's happening in many cases. In the event it's an impromptu screening, make sure if you're driving, pull over. Don't be trying to drive and do an interview. I want you to focus and take care of yourself in that way and not put yourself at risk. Okay. Okay. So then also, oh, okay. Somebody said that in the instance of wearing the company colors, somebody was selected because they wore the company colors. Okay, it may work. Okay. And I guess it must have been Target. Okay. Uh, so the in-person screening, and thank you for that additional feedback. So the in-person screening is also uh it's the one that we've been doing for years. I mean, it's what we're used to when we think of an interview. We know that we're going to go in. People have been asking me, do you still shake hands? Yes, you can still shake hands. I would recommend you have hand sanitizer. I'm not saying pull it out. As soon as after you shake their hands, they may be offended, but I definitely would not touch my face during the course of the interview. And when the interview was over, I would be cleaning my hands just out of precaution. Yes. So, and then also in the in-person interview, you still want to watch your posture. You still want to watch your tone. You still want to not interrupt. So most of the things that are applicable to the phone screening are also applicable to the in-person screening. The eye contact now comes into play, trying to provide that interviewer with eye contact. If the interviewer is, you're having trouble with eye contact, one trick is you can look at something directly above the interviewer's head, and it'll give the appearance that you're looking at them, but you're actually looking at something above them. You're actually looking at something that was above them. So it looked like you are looking at them, but you are going to actually be looking at them, looking at something above them. That's one way you can look like you're giving eye contact, even if you are not. Then the next thing is going to be the selection interview. Any questions about those two interviews so far? The screening interviews, the in-person and the telephone interview. All right. Thanks for the tip. So now we're going to talk about selections. Now, in the selection interview, that's going to be slightly different in that it is going to be where there may be more than one person in that interview. But I'm thinking that's the group interview. So I'm gonna come back to selection. Okay, so some of this stuff is coming up in the chat. So I'm watching the chat and I'm also doing that. So for the selection interview, it's just the same thing as there could be multiple interviews, and then you meet with multiple people and they evaluate your skills. And since we talked about one employer that does that, the one that we talked about in the chat, they do that too, where you get there's multiple interviews and you meet with multiple people. And so basically, in some instance, when they do that, sometime it is the same questions. Target did it. I'm just gonna tell you because it's in the chat. They actually it was multiple people doing the interviews. Like you go to one room, next room, next room, and at the end of the day, each person asks the same question, just in a different area. If you ever get into that cycle of a selection interview and the organization or the interviewers are asking you the same questions over and over, what answers are you going to give them? So if 5 people ask you, why do you want to work here? What answer are you? The same. Very good. Thank you. You're going to give them the same answer. Because what if they get together and they compare notes, and then they're comparing the notes, you give different answer. It makes you come across as not being solid as you are. We know you're solid. So you want to make sure that you are giving the same answers. Don't change up your answers. Now, sometimes employers try to be smart or slick and they try to ask you the same question a different way. That's okay. We see them give them the same answer because it's the same question, just in a different format. So be careful to make sure you do that. And then is my favorite. Now I want you to give me a reaction, a thumbs up, thumbs down, or heart. How do you feel about behavior interviews? You know those interviews where they asking you a question, they trying to assess how you behave, your personality, and they ask you something like, "Tell me about a time when." I don't see no love. Nobody love those. Maybe you'd ask me to sell them their pen. That's the old one. Somebody put in here that the interviewer say, sell me, sell me their pen. That's not necessarily a behavior interview question. That's a sales question. That would fall under maybe a work sample if you were going in for a sales job. So that's different. A behavior interview question, they just want to know how you're going to behave, and they want to know based upon how they may give you a scenario, something like that. But that's another one. We can talk about that too. So the behavior interview question is usually when they say, "Tell me about a time when." So they may it could be, or they must tell me about a time you had a conflict with a coworker. Tell me about a time when you had a disgruntled customer. Tell me about a time when, as a CEO, you had to let go half your staff. Like they may ask you those type of questions, and you want to be prepared for those. Now later there is a slide on STAR, but I'm going to address STAR now because STAR is the solution. So STAR, STAR, STAR is the solution to behavior interview questions and accomplishment statements if we were talking about resumes, but we're talking about interviewing. That is the way to pretty much set up yourself for successfully answering behavior and managing a behavior interview. Now, we're used to those scary questions like, what is your greatest weakness? But a behavior interview is different because it is, you have to be prepared for it. Um, so let's talk about STAR. STAR, S. S and STAR stands for something. And I know that because there are several of you here. Somebody knows what it is. Go ahead and tell me what the S is when I'm talking about a STAR. Situation. Thank you. I think she's going to get the whole answer. So the S is for situation. That is correct. What is the T? Go ahead and drop that. Task. Good. Okay. STA. What's the A for? A. A is right. Action. STAR. And the R is results. So some of the advanced people in here, they gave the whole thing. So STAR, situation, task, action, and results. It's going to come up. We're going to talk about that. It's just building out a STAR story. And because we're talking about behavior interviews, that's going to be our secret answer. Now, it's going to come up. We're going to talk about it again, but just keep that in your mind that the answer to the behavior interview is going to be those STAR stories: situation, task, action, and results. We're coming back to that. Now, then there is the work sample. The work sample could be where they have you to just give a sample of your actual work. Say, for example, you was going to be a salesperson because somebody said they got asked to sell a pen. So if you were going in for a sales job and they want to know do you have the ability to sell them a pen, then they may ask you to sell them that pen. And you would do something like this. This pen is incredible. It has smooth writing. The color is rich. You would do whatever you need to do to say about that pen. And you say, feel it, touch it, go ahead and write with it. And then you tell them, well, this pen is normally $100. But today, because you're special, you can have this pen for just $25. So something like that. You would sell them the pen. Whatever you need to do, sell the pen. So that might be a work sample if you was a sales. A work sample, if somebody was going to be a facilitator, they may have them to come in and do a presentation. They could do a presentation online. They could do a presentation in person, and they would be checking out a couple of things about you. Can you do a presentation? How do you present? They also can see, do you know how to make a PowerPoint? So it's a lot that Jay would do in a work sample. In other instances, they may also ask for work samples. But when you are providing work samples, be careful that you're not sharing out any information from a previous employer that may have been protected. So don't share out so much. Don't share out so much that you are giving out protected information from the previous employer. Be careful with that. And then the next thing is the group versus peer group. So the group interview is when the group interview is when there's a group of people. They're going to ask. Those are two different things, but I'm going to talk about group. The group interview is when there are several people being asked questions and they're all being interviewed at the same time. I never had to do a group interview where wait a minute. That's two different things. Yeah, group interviews where they're asking everybody the same questions. My thing is about around a group interview is that if they ask, you can volunteer to be first, but I wouldn't necessarily volunteer to be first. If I know that there's 10 of us, we're all answering the same question, I may lay back and be third because after they ask you and the next person, I know I'm gonna know my answer. Even if I hear the first person answer, I'm gonna know my answer. I've seen some writers say, oh, give comments to the first answer and then add on. You don't necessarily have to do that either. I wouldn't recommend that. I've been seeing, I don't always agree with everything that I see or read. And so that would be one that I don't necessarily agree with. So, but I would take that time in a group interview to be, you could be friendly to the other people. Maybe they're going to hire more than one person. But take the time to listen because they're asking y'all all the same question. And then that use that time to prep and be ready for your answer. Now, when we talk about a peer group, that's a little different. Peer group interview is when you are going into the organization. Remember, we're trying to check them out too. So you're going into the organization, you're going to the interview, and you have the grand opportunity to be interviewed by your peers. What better way to determine if you want to work with an organization than to actually see and be interviewed by the people that you will actually be working with? That's a good thing. You can find out greater details about the job that you'll be doing, more so than what the supervisor or HR will be able to tell you. You'll be able to find out, are these some people you want to work with every day? So yeah, that is a great opportunity. There's also another one that's around group interviewing that's not on this list. And I usually don't include it, but I need to because I need to make a distinction. There's a panel interview. Now, a panel interview is when there are several people interviewing just you. Has anybody ever had a panel interview? And then how many people were you interviewed by? So 3, 7, 7 is the highest numbers. 5. So, okay. So you've had a panel interview. It looks like some people have been interviewed by up to 8 people. So when a panel interview, to me, the advantage of a panel interview is that you don't have to look at one person. You don't have to stare at the wall behind one person. You can actually move your head from person to person and making sure you're giving the person who's asking the question direct contact. They're going to talk amongst each other. That is your time to breathe, smile, think, relax, and actually laugh. Because I'm like, okay, I was so stressed out, but they're really not looking at me. I can take a deep breath. So yeah, so that also works in your favor. So normally when I think of group interviews, peer interviews, panel interviews, they may be a source of stress. Don't let it stress you out because all of those opportunities are going to work in your favor. So are there any questions that I am missing? Okay. I don't see any questions. So yes, those are the types of interviews: the telephone screening, in-person selection, behavior, work sample, group peer, and then panel interview. There's other interviews out there too. And somebody said I did one. So somebody did bring up the video interview, and it is in the chat. And I did say there are other interviews. Uh, a video interview is one that I normally don't talk about because it's not on the list, but that is another type of interview whereby it would be very similar to the telephone interview, where as far as the environment, making sure there's no noise, there's no disturbance, making sure you're fully dressed, that you're smiling, your lighting, everything comes into play with that. Now, let's see, make sure I'm not missing anything here. Somebody said that is it just me or is interviewing for a new job while you have a job? Yes, somebody asking the question, is it easier to interview for a job while you have a job? Easier. Absolutely it's easier because at the end of the day, you already have a job. And in some instance, you like your job. I mean, you're there and you're just trying to expand out. So then it does become, it may come across as easier, but you still may still feel those emotions if you don't secure the new job, where the disappointment and all of that. So it may be easier, but it still can have some effects on you. So yeah, it may appear to be easier. Yes, yes, because you don't have that extra burden of needing a job. Sometime when we're going from when we're not actually already working and we're looking for a job, we actually might need or want the job a little bit more. So it might be easier. Yes. Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is communicating your best image. And I think that we probably talked about this already a little bit. So basically, when it says send good signals, I talked about that. Those are those recognizing and remembering that our communication, 80% of that communication is going to be nonverbal, the sitting up, brushing your head, doing all that. So be careful with that. And like, for example, another thing that you're sending a good signal, and this is with the handshake. Uh, Outside of the hand sanitizer, which I can't get out of my mind that you should have that on your person to be able to use it immediately after the interview. Another thing with the handshake outside of the hand sanitizer is making sure that your shake is not too firm and not too soft. You want to have you want it to be firm enough for them to take you seriously, but you don't want to be like you're trying to break or crush their hands. Now, I and it's a way that you want to meet how you want your hand to meet and how you want it to connect. Don't do like a little wimpy. I don't know if you can see my hand. You don't want to do like a little wimpy hand where you're barely touching. You want it to be like a good handshake, a good firm handshake, like that. And not too firm, not too soft, not too wimpy. If you are one with your hands that sweat, my hands don't sweat, but I've met lots of people, their hands are super soft, but their hands are sweaty. So you want to make sure that you're like wipe your hands real quick before you come in contact with somebody to do that handshake. So yeah, that's some things too I want to make sure that you think about. And just to make, and you want to like make sure you come across as focused when they're asking the questions. Now, the show and tell, remember that I said that you want to make sure that you're able to speak to everything on your resume. You're going to be able to back up every statement, and that's going to come in part two with having the star stories, what you're going to be able to do, what you're going to do that in an illustration story. You want to make sure you're finishing strong, right? What that means is, I'm going to say make sure you ask them a closing question and like finding out what the next interview is going to be. What is the procedures after the interview, and that's going to also lead into the follow-up. Okay. And the follow-up I'm going to talk about, I thought that came later in the presentation, but follow-up is going to be inclusive of sending out the thank you letters or the emails. How many of you send out thank you emails? Give me a thumb up if you send out you send out thank you communications, whether it's an email, whatever. Okay. If you are sending out, looks like everybody's doing it, so you rock. Good job. Great job. I'm really happy for that. Now, whether you're sending out, if you're sending out the handwritten thank yous, you do not send those out immediately. Like, I don't have any stationery, but if you're having a handwritten thank you note, don't deliver it on the way out the door, because then it kind of takes away some of the power. There's power in that follow up in the thank you note. What it does is it allows you to communicate to the employer why you are the best candidate for the job. If you write it out before the interview, then you don't know what they're needing to have fulfilled. So you definitely want to do it within 24 hours. Don't wait, but do it after the interview, because then you'll have more information where you've gauged where they have a need that you're there to fulfill. So keep that in mind. Okay, there's some questions coming in there. Cal, can you tell me what the questions is? There's a question there that I need
Yeah,
to answer.
we've got a couple here. They're zipping by pretty quick.
Yeah. Somebody
One
said, can it
here.
be an email? I did see that. Yes, you
Yep,
absolutely can send an email if as a thank you. That's all I do is send emails. I don't even give the old school notes
yep.
anymore. So yes, you can absolutely send an email. And normally I would say if they sent you an email, you can email them the thank you. So like when they invited you to the interview, they probably sent you an email, right? So then we have the email address and then you can email back. So I always say yes, that's good.
Yeah. Another one too. Danica asked, "What do I do if I don't have their email?" Ask for a business card at the interview, at the end of an interview. That way, you've got their email, you've got the spelling of their name. Um, Oftentimes, if you're in a panel interview, there might be 3 or 4 people. Ask for cards from each of them.
So get their business cards. If they don't have business cards and they have communicated who they're interviewing with, there's a way you can get their name and the format of how that company do it. Another thing is you can call a receptionist or someone at their organization and they can give you their email address. So there's so much available. It's going to be on LinkedIn. You can Google it. So if you get into the situation and last thing you're worried about is getting an email from somebody you interview with, but you know their first and their last name, call Career Force. We got you. We can definitely help you track down that email. Is there another question?
Just one. Somebody had asked if we send a thank you email to the HR person after the first interview. My response is yes. I don't think it ever hurts to say thank you.
Yep, absolutely. You want to thank everybody. Thank HR. Thank you. Thank the interviewer. Because what happens is, like somebody said, somebody got the job at Target because they wore red. The same thing applies to the thank you. You may be the thank you note may be the one thing that distinguishes you from somebody else, and y'all was equal candidates, but you sent a thank you and they did not. So that may be the thing that distinguishes you from others. So
Yep.
definitely send your thank yous.
All
And
right. I think that's.
actually,
I
thank
think.
you makes room for more, even outside of interviewing. I could tell you a story, but yeah, you want to always say thank you. I'm gonna give a quick story. I have several godchildren, and some of them always say thank you. Those are the ones that always get gifts. So, and I'm not doing it on purpose. It's something I can't control. Thank you always makes room for more in all areas. So just keep that in mind. Somebody said if you're working with recruiters, should you thank them? Yeah, you can thank the recruiter, but keep in mind that recruiters are working with you and they probably got 5 other people who have your exact same skill set and they're sending you and 5 others out to the employer. So, because at the end of the day, the recruiter is going to get paid whether you get the job or I get the job. But yeah, you can thank the recruiter. It's good to thank everybody. I had an interview online that was set up through automated system. I was able to. Somebody said something about they had an interview that was set up online. It was sent to a standard company email. You could, you tried to send it back was undeliverable. That may require us to do a little research. So I would, yeah. So maybe give us a call later. We'll have to do some deep research for that because that's a very unique situation. Okay, because we can find that. All right. Thank you for the question. So now I'm looking at the time. I don't want to run out of time. So now we have handling the tough questions. So basically, employers will ask you a tough question, and it's okay. What I want you to do is to remain positive when you're giving that answer. If you had a tough interview question, go ahead and drop it in the chat. Let me see what they look like. A tough interview question. Is there a particular phone number I should call to follow up on that unique situation? Oh, just call Career Force, any Career Force location. Why did you leave your previous job? So basically, somebody said a difficult question is why did you leave your previous job? And then they put in parentheses, fired. Now, if you were let go of from your previous employer, it's not a difficult question. You're just going to answer that question and say, uh, tell them what you did well at the last company and how you're going to be able to use those transferable skills at that organization. You're not going to say I got fired. You're never going to say that. Say I'm looking for another opportunity. Da, da, da. Now they call them legally. They're not supposed to say you got fired, but you're just going to focus on the positive and sharing out the fact that you accomplished this and now you're able to do that. Now, and we can work around anything. So many things you can work around that. So don't worry about that. Some people get fired because they were low performers. Somebody might have got fired because their attendance was bad. The only one that really is hard for to help is if someone took something. That's a harder one to work your way out of it. But maybe that's even workable as well. So yeah. So how do you deal with a difficult person at work? That is a good question. That's that behavior interview question. And then you would be prepared with that. That wouldn't be difficult for you anymore because you're going to have a star story. We know they always ask you about a conflict or difficult customer, so you're going to have a star story around one of those two, and then making sure that you're not going to use negative language when you do that. So you won't reiterate, well, I had a person who was very difficult to work with. You're not going to say that. Say, well, I wouldn't necessarily say there was a person that was difficult. I can tell you about a time when there was a miscommunication or something around that way, so that you're answering it, but you're not speaking negative about anyone. Somebody said the difficult question was, what was your experience with this preferred qualification? And you didn't have that experience. Now, if an experience is preferred on a job posting and you don't have it, I wouldn't apply for that. Now, if a job has just, they might have like preferred. Okay, preferred you don't have to have. That's fine. You just got to have the required. Preferred is okay. So, if you don't have that preferred experience and you see that it's preferred on the job posting, I would be prepared for that question on and work my way up to how I would answer that. Maybe you're currently taking a class. Um, maybe they want you to know how to do X assets. I don't know, Microsoft assets. Maybe you're currently taking a class. So just be prepared to have an answer for that, especially if it's on the job postings. Do you have a favorite personality to work with? Wow, that's a good one. I've never heard that one before. Oh, wow. That's a good question. That is a very good question. I'll be prepared for that answer the next time I see that one. Do you have a favorite personality to work with? I would say yes. So basically what they're trying to do, normally if somebody asks you, do you have a favorite personality to work with, which I've never seen that question, but in the event of questions similar to that, they're trying, like they said, do you have, what skills you'd like to see in a supervisor? They're actually, what happens is you tell them how you see things from your perspective, and it's mostly about you. And most people like people who are like them. So in that question, they're probably trying to find out your personality. So I'm going to say I like to work with people who are go-getters, who has a positive disposition, who like to see things completed, and just generally a bubbly person. So basically, I'm going to describe myself. I want to work with somebody who's very similar to me, period. So that one should, don't let that trip you up anymore. So if you ask that, they ask you that question again, tell them some characteristics of yourself that are strong that you like, and then tell them that's the type of person you want to work with, somebody similar to you. Don't say similar to you, but if you point out the very great things about you, that'll help you answer that question very easily. So this sandwich method here is taking the positive, putting in the negative, if you can now avoid the negative. But when I say anticipate, when it says anticipate the questions, a lot of the questions are going to be derived from maybe the job post on your resume. Anticipate them. Make sure you have star stories. Be prepared for them. Be positive, be honest, keep it brief and focused. The last thing you want to do is answer a question and you keep going. When the employer asks you a question, answer that question and stop. Pause. Take a breath. Even if it's quiet, it's okay. Stay focused. You don't want to, because if you answer the question and you keep going, they lose the answer, the great answer that you gave the first time. So don't get nervous and keep talking. The next thing, oh boy, this time going fast. Remember, we talked about the STAR method, the situation, the task, action, and the result. We're going to give the questions, give a situation, a task, an action, and result. I'm going to recommend to you that you have 7. I know that's a lot. I'm greedy. I normally only ask for 3 or 4, but now that I know that there are several employers who do strictly just behavior interviews on their interviews, I'm encouraging you to have 7 star stories. That's a lot. If you have 7 star stories, that tells me that you're going to be prepared for any employer. And when I say star stories, when you're given the situation, the action, the result, you're not necessarily you're not memorizing them. I don't want you to memorize those stories because it would cause what I'm going to call filters. It'll cause empty filters when you're trying to recall it, and I don't want that. I want you to have 7 strong star stories that you can speak to. You can even have them written down somewhere, but don't have to say them word for word. Just around what you're going to do. Absolutely don't say the situation, the task, the action, the result is. If you want to, so don't say that extra. If you want to elevate the star story, you can add a T, and I think it would be start and tell them what you took away from it. Okay. But mostly important to have the foundation, the situation, the task, the action, and the result of how you handle that, and prepare 7 star stories. So I want you, everybody, to put 7 in there because I want you to remember that. I want you to come up with 7 star stories. I'm not saying it's going to be the easiest thing that you do, but I want you to come up with 7 star stories of and work on it. It's going to take you. It's not going to be like, oh, I got this. It's going to take an hour. It's going to take you it may take you several hours, but do it so that it's going to be part of your foundational preparation. If I had you here for another hour, I'll have you to do at least one, but we only have 11 minutes. So that's homework. I give homework. Okay. That's your homework. I need you to come up with 7 star stories, please. Situation, task, action, and result. There are a couple of key interview questions. Tell me about yourself. Now, tell me about yourself used to be very intimidating until I ran into an interview where they didn't even ask me about myself. They wanted those star stories. Okay, they asked me every question, and it was a behavior interview question. So that made this tell me about yourself an easy question. Now, how do you address the tell me about yourself? Because it does still come up with other employers, is that you're going to tell that employer about yourself as it pertains to your experience and education around the job that you're applying for. You don't have to tell them about your kids and that you love to cook or bake. That will get you hired with me because I like to eat. But you don't tell them that. You tell them about your experience and your education as it is relevant to the job you're applying for. Why are you interested in working at this company? Remember earlier when we talked about the research, a part of that could be the mission or their goal. It's something about them that aligns with you. Like I work normally at employers that afford me the opportunity to give back. Uh, Whether it's time or where you're helping. I just feel like I got to be helping somebody. So it just depends. So whatever it is in your heart that makes you want to work for an employer, tell them that because you could work anywhere. You can make the money anywhere. You can make X whatever dollars you want from any employer. Why did you select that employer? It's something about that employer that stood out. That's why you selected them. It wasn't just that they had a job posting. It was something that attracted you to them. Tap into that and make sure you tell them that. Um, Another question is what is your major weakness? If you're asked anything about a weakness, do not reiterate the word weakness. It has a negative tone to it. Just answer the question. The one thing you're not gonna do is say I don't have a weakness, because then it makes it look like you're not aware of yourself. And when you do share out the weakness, you're not using the weakness term, um, and you want to make sure you have a solution to it, similar to a star story, but having a solution to it. An area that I'm currently working on is Microsoft Access. I am excellent in with the rest of the suite. I know Word, Power, blah, blah. You can speak to all the other things you could do. An area that I'm not as great on is the Access. I'm currently taking online classes to get my Access so it can be up with the rest of the suite. I don't even know if they call it a Microsoft Office suite anymore, but with the other parts of the program. Okay, so that's just an example. That's true. That's the answer I give because it's the truth. And most of us do not have to use Microsoft Access, ACCESS, as part of our jobs. If you are in IT and you use it as part of your job, absolutely, positively don't use anything that would show that you have a weakness as far as performing a job. Don't do that. Please, I'm begging you. Then what are your strengths? Now, they're kind of up. Employers know that we are clever and we try to provide our strengths for weakness. Try not to do that, but tell them your strengths and make sure that the strengths that you're sharing out are something around how you can do that job, or maybe it's a bonus to that. So give your strengths. And then can you give an example of how you solved the problem? And then you give an example of how you solved the problem, whether it was running out of paper or whatever the problem was. That's going to refer back to that. If you have 7 star stories, maybe one of your star stories is around when you solved the problem, the situation, the task, the action, and the results. Go ahead and throw in that T. What was the takeaway? Then this question, which you may be asked, what do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? So it says 3 years, it could say 5. One thing I used to do when I was younger, and I don't recommend it for all the younger people, I used to tell them I see myself doing your job because I was so over ambitious. Like, and I thought that. And I thought that was the truth. And so I told the truth. I don't tell them that even if I do feel like I'm gonna take over for them, I don't tell that anymore. So in 3 years, I just say that I see myself working in XYZ company. And then if there is a step above that what you are doing, then you say that. So if you're a cashier and you see yourself as a lead or a team lead, so I see myself as a team lead, something similar to that, but not taking out the person who's interviewing you. Um, it's something around that organization. Now, I do work with lots of different clients, and some of you have been VPs, presidents, directors, CEOs, CFOs, and you've had a feel of that. So if they ask you whether you see yourself in 3 years, you can say, I see myself content and continuing in this, being helpful from this end, because not everybody wants to move up because they've worked, some of you have worked in those higher positions all your life, and now you just want to work just calmly, not be responsible for anybody but yourself, and that's okay too. So keep that in mind. So if you're the one who is like, you've been a CEO, you've been a president, and you're done with that, and you just want to be the tech person now, that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with that. It's less stressful. You can have more time for your family. That's okay as well. So keep that in mind. Now, why did you leave your last job? There's different reasons why you could leave your last job, and if you could just say pursue other opportunities. There's so many different reasons why we leave our last job. We're just not going to share out anything that's negative. Now, yeah, keep that in mind. Now, post job step. So this is just, why'd you leave your last job? If you left your job and you're unable to articulate why, like if it wasn't a layoff or change in the company shift or whatever, do contact us here at Career Force so we can help you work around that. Do take the additional workshops. That's also going to help you as well. Now, post interview steps, what I want you to do is try to recap it. Think about it. Make sure you're documenting things like that you had to interview, the date and time. What was their next steps? We are, as I already talked about, I'm gonna reiterate, send that thank you note, send that communication. Try to do it in less than 24 hours. When I say less than 24 hours, I mean actual hours. I don't mean business hours. I don't want you to wait a week to send a thank you note. I mean the next business day, is it all feasible? So that's why I say within 24 hours. And it could be a card, an email, or a letter. I kind of reference our favorite emails because it's quickest for me and it's right there and everything. It's the best thing to do. So now we're good. We have some time left. I was thought we were going to run out of time. So if there's any one-on-one appointment events, oh, it looks like we're sharing out the one-on-one appointment events. So now if there's any questions that I can address, Cal, that I missed, if you could tell me. So you're interested in finding a fit.
Yep, I do
Okay, I'm
have a
ready.
couple here for you.
I'm ready. We got
I
time.
have one I kind of like this question. Is there a way to con your brain into thinking you have a job while you are interviewing while unemployed?
Yes, there is. They're called job seeker affirmations. Now, I don't know what class it comes up in, but I teach a couple of different classes, so they kind of I still know all the knowledge, even though this is an interview class. But one of the classes, there is where we talk about affirmations, so you can definitely speak to yourself in job seeker affirmations. They're out there. I mean, I googled them. I don't have them with me today, but job seeker affirmations, like uh, I dove really deep into that, and man, I don't have it because it's an interview. But anyway, job seeker affirmations. That's what I do. Just Google that, and it'll come up with you. It'll come up, and that's one way. I think that's one way. Is there another question?
Yeah, and just to reiterate on that, when you get selected for an interview, they've already looked at your credentials. They know you're good. They've probably put you in the top 10% of the people. So when you're preparing for that interview, be positive, be upbeat. And if you, that's really what you're trying to do is have a good attitude and approach. Yeah, another question here. This one is just a general one. Should you avoid chat bot screenings? Do they really do anything? What's your take on that?
If the employer, you mean the employer is using chat box screening, you can't avoid it.
Yeah,
If that's if that's what the employer is using, you have to go that route.
yeah.
If that's what they're doing, we can't control that.
I think any kind of screening that an employer is doing, they're trying to gather some information. It's easier for them to screen people out, whether it be a screening phone call or if it's a chat bot. They might be trying to narrow it down from 100 candidates to 12. And if you don't respond to it, you've probably just eliminated yourself, unfortunately. So we've got more questions coming in. Bu- 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 So, in the interest of finding a fit, are there good questions to ask of the interviewer about the company?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's questions you can ask the interviewer about the company. You can ask them what you can ask them about what happens during the course of the day. What do they find to be a successful person doing XYZ position? So you can ask them questions along that. Somebody got in here ATS. ATS is the applicant tracking system. I do dive deep into ATS in a resume workshop. Um, I think we do.
Let's
I think we all supposed to be addressing that. So that it, for those of you who don't know, it's just an applicant tracking system. It scans your resume, it gives it a score, and it helps you determine whether or not you'll get the interview. So I guess it could be relevant to this. So that's what it does. So I don't know what you want to know about it. I just see ATS. So we're coming up on 11. Is there any other burning questions I need to do?
I think we've got most of them. I tried to answer a lot of them, but just as a reminder, folks, I am going to send a follow-up email to you tomorrow. It's going to have a copy of the workshop today. It's going to have a link to all the materials that we talked about and used. It's also going to have a link to those one-on-one appointments. So if you do have a question that didn't get answered today, please schedule a one-on-one appointment. We do those every day.
And somebody said weakness is chocolate. It has to be a job search related weakness. So good. So thank you everybody for coming in today. So, but if you get into a tight pinch, um, let us know. Contact Career Force and just let us know. Thank you.
All right. You guys have a good day.
All right.